If you're an Australian senior over 60, I need you to stay with me for the next few minutes because there is a real chance that money you are entitled to right now is sitting unclaimed inside the Centrelink system, and nobody from Services Australia is going to call you up and tell you about it. That is simply not how the system works. Centrelink assesses your situation once, hands you a fortnightly number, and moves on. If your circumstances change, if a threshold shifts, or if you never knew a particular entitlement existed in the first place, the gap between what you're receiving and what you're actually owed just sits there quietly year after year. Today, I'm walking you through 4 specific current entitlements that thousands of Australian seniors are missing right now in 2026. Not vague advice, real numbers, real thresholds, and exactly what to check this week. Stay to the end, because the last one is the one almost nobody looks at, and it's often the one worth the most over a full year. Before we get into it, if you're not subscribed, do that now, because these thresholds move every March and every September. If you're not across the changes when they happen, you can lose money without ever being told why your payment changed. Let me start with a story, because I think it explains why this keeps happening better than any list of rules could. A couple in their late 60s, we'll call them Ray and Pam, had been on the age pension for about 4 years. Ray had picked up some casual handyman work here and there, nothing regular, maybe 1 or 2 jobs a month. Every time he did a job, he'd quietly worry about whether it was going to cost them part of their pension that fortnight, so he kept turning work down. It wasn't until their daughter sat down with them one weekend, logged into their Centrelink online account, and found something neither of them had ever looked at: a work bonus balance sitting at nearly $10,000, unused, just accumulating in the background the entire time Ray had been declining work out of caution. Nobody at Centrelink had ever mentioned it existed. It was sitting there because Ray simply hadn't been earning enough to use up his fortnightly allowance, and the leftover amount had been quietly banking up the whole time. That one afternoon of checking changed how Ray thought about picking up work for the rest of that year. That's the pattern behind everything I'm about to cover. None of these entitlements are secret. They're published, they're real, and Services Australia will explain every one of them if you ask the right question. The problem is nobody asks you the right question. The system waits for you to bring it up first. Now let's get into the foundation. Centrelink doesn't run one single test on you. It runs several side by side. An income test, an assets test, deeming rates applied to your savings and investments, and separate income limits for concession cards. Most seniors only ever hear about the headline figure, their fortnightly pension payment. They never hear about the smaller mechanisms sitting quietly around it, and those smaller mechanisms, one by one, can add up to real money across a year. The first one, exactly like Ray's story, is the work bonus. If you're on the age pension and still doing any paid work, even a few shifts a week, Centrelink lets you earn $300 a fortnight from work without a single dollar of it counting against your pension under the income test. That much people sometimes know. What almost nobody knows is what happens to that $300 when you're not working or when you earn less than the full amount. It doesn't disappear. It banks up. Every fortnight, you don't use your full $300 allowance. The unused portion gets credited into what's called your work bonus income bank, and that bank can grow up to a maximum of $11,800. Think about what that actually means. If you've been retired and not working for a stretch of time, your income bank has likely been quietly filling the whole time, exactly like Ray's was. Then Christmas comes around, or harvest season, or your local pharmacy or hardware store needs someone for a few months, and you take on a solid block of paid work. Because of that banked-up credit, you could genuinely earn a large amount in a short window without your pension being reduced at all. On top of that, new pensioners start with a one-off $4,000 credit already sitting in that bank the day they're granted the pension, so even someone who has never worked a single day since retiring already has thousands of dollars of built-in buffer they don't know about. The fix here is simple and takes about 2 minutes. Log into your Centrelink online account through MyGov, look under your payments, and check your current work bonus balance before you decide anything about picking up or turning down work. The second one is the Commonwealth Seniors Health Card. This is the one that catches self-funded retirees the hardest, and it catches them because of a wrong assumption made early and never revisited. A lot of people retire comfortably, a decent super balance, maybe an investment property, enough that they know straight away they won't qualify for the age pension. And because they're not on the pension, they assume Centrelink has nothing left for them. That single assumption alone can cost hundreds of dollars a year in cheaper medicines and subsidized medical care. Here's why that assumption is often wrong. The Commonwealth Seniors Health Card has no assets test whatsoever. None. It doesn't matter what your home is worth, what your super balance is, or what other property you own. Eligibility is based purely on income, specifically your adjusted taxable income plus any deemed income from account-based pensions. Under current thresholds, a single person can earn just over $100,000 a year, and a couple can earn over $160,000 combined and still qualify. That's a far higher bar than most comfortably off retirees expect, which means plenty of people who assume they're too well off for any Centrelink support are actually sitting well inside the eligibility window without ever realizing it. And here's the trap inside the trap. This card is not automatic. Nobody applies it on your behalf. You have to actively lodge the application yourself, and it only covers you for the year you apply. So if your income shifts from year to year, you may need to reapply, or you may newly qualify in a year you previously didn't. If you've never checked because you assumed you'd be knocked back, that assumption is exactly the one worth testing this week. It takes minutes on the Services Australia website, and if you qualify, it unlocks cheaper PBS medicines and access to the extended Medicare safety net for that entire year. The third one is your deeming assessment, and this is where things get quietly expensive over time. Deeming is the rule Centrelink uses to assume your financial assets, your savings, term deposits, shares, and account-based pensions are earning a set rate of income, regardless of what they're actually earning in the real world. There's a lower deeming rate that applies up to a certain balance, and a higher rate that kicks in above that threshold. These rates and thresholds get reviewed periodically, and when they move, they flow straight into two things at once: your pension rate under the income test, and your eligibility for that Commonwealth Seniors Health Card we just covered. Here's what people consistently miss. You cannot ask Centrelink for a lower deeming rate just because your real investment returns happen to be lower than what's being assumed. That's simply how the deeming system is designed to operate. But what you absolutely can and should do is make sure the actual asset figures Centrelink is deeming against are current and correct. If you closed a term deposit 18 months ago and moved that money into something else, or if an old account is still sitting on file at a balance that no longer reflects reality, Centrelink may still be deeming income off numbers that don't exist anymore. That pushes your assessed income higher than it should be, which can shrink your pension or tip you over a health card threshold, and you would genuinely never know that was the reason unless you went looking through your own paperwork. The fix is to sit down once a year, pull your actual bank and investment statements, and compare them line by line against what Centrelink has recorded for you. If anything's out of date, you update it through your MyGov account or by calling Centrelink directly. And the fourth one, the one almost nobody checks, is rent assistance. If you're an age pensioner and you pay private rent, board, or retirement village fees, Commonwealth Rent Assistance sits on top of your pension as a separate fortnightly supplement. For a single renter with no dependents, the maximum currently sits at somewhere around $215 to $220 a fortnight, worked out at 75 cents for every dollar of rent you pay above a set threshold, up to that maximum. These figures are indexed every March and September, so the exact number moves over time, but the mechanism itself stays consistent. Here's the part that actually catches people out. Rent assistance is meant to be assessed automatically once you declare your rent details to Centrelink, but that only works if your rent details are actually current in their system. If your rent has gone up since you last updated it, if you moved to a new rental and never told them, or if you're paying site fees in a retirement village or paying board to a family member and never declared it as rent at all, Centrelink has no way of knowing, and you simply don't receive the supplement you're entitled to. Unlike the work bonus or the health card, this one isn't about a rule nobody explained to you. It's about a detail that quietly goes stale in the system, and nobody proactively flags it back to you. Over a full year, the gap between what you should be getting and what you actually are getting can run into the thousands. So here's the thread running through all four of these. None of them are hidden fine print designed to trip you up. They're published rules, sitting openly on the Services Australia website. The problem, every single time, is the same one. The system is built to respond to what you tell it, not to proactively check whether you're missing something. It waits for you to ask. So here's exactly what I do with everything we've covered today, in order. First, log into your Centrelink online account through MyGov and check your work bonus balance. See exactly how much income-free room you're sitting on before you turn down work or worry unnecessarily about picking up extra shifts. Second, if you're a self-funded retiree who assumed you earned too much for any Centrelink support, actually check the Commonwealth Seniors Health Card income limits before ruling yourself out. The threshold is genuinely higher than most people expect. Third, once a year, pull your real bank and investment statements and check them against what Centrelink has on file, because outdated asset figures quietly inflate your deemed income and can cost you on both the pension and the health card. Fourth, if you're renting, confirm your current rent is correctly recorded with Centrelink, because rent assistance only ever pays what the system thinks you're paying, not what you're actually paying today. None of this requires complicated paperwork or weeks of back and forth. If anything here feels specific to your own situation and you'd like it properly modeled against your real numbers, the Financial Information Service through Services Australia is completely free and independent, and you can book an appointment by calling 132300. That service exists specifically for exactly this kind of question, and unlike a general call center, the people there specialize in walking through your actual figures with you. I want to be upfront about what this video is. It's general information based on current, published Centrelink rules. It is not personal financial advice. Your own eligibility depends on your specific income, your assets, and your individual circumstances, and that conversation belongs with the Financial Information Service or a licensed financial advisor who can see your actual numbers in front of them. If this helped you spot something you hadn't checked before, subscribe for more breakdowns like this one and send it to someone over 60 in your life who might be sitting on money they don't know they're entitled to. Sometimes, like Ray and Pam, all it takes is one afternoon of actually looking,